These cases shocked me to my core. I'm your host Yusuf, and these are 10 disturbing Ed and Lorraine Warren cases they tried to hide. Make sure to subscribe and ring that bell to get notified whenever we upload a new video. Anyways, let's get into the cases. Number 10, the Perron Family. The Perron family had just moved into their dream home when they heard, "Get out, I'll drive you out with demise and gloom." That was the warning that greeted Carolyn Perron when she, her husband Roger, and their 5 children moved into what they thought was a charming old farmhouse in rural Rhode Island. It was the winter of 1970. Locals called the house the Old Arnold Estate, and it quickly unleashed its malevolence on its new tenants. Carolyn Perron told the Providence Journal that she was awakened soon after moving in by a very tall woman in an old gray dress with her head hanging to the side, resembling a sack of cobwebs. It was she who delivered the ominous warning that the Perrons needed to find another place to live. When the Perrons initially moved in, there was no indication of a nefarious presence, until things went missing and objects seemed to move on their own. The Perron children began to notice spirits in the house. At first there were only a few harmless spirits, but soon they became resentful. Carolyn conducted her own historical research on the house and uncovered 8 generations of one family which had lived there. Many of them passed in mysterious or horrible ways at the farm. Some of them took their own lives, others were removed, and some children passed by drowning. Andrea Perron, the oldest of the Perron children, later recalled that her mother's research was valid because virtually every entity we were able to name had, as living beings, either passed by their own hand or passed so traumatic a way and so sudden an execution that they didn't seem to know they were no longer alive. Number 9, Annabelle. Ed and Lorraine Warren's Occult Museum is a permanent home to the Annabelle doll, which is kept in a special protected case. In 1970, this Raggedy Ann doll was given to 28-year-old Donna, and it wasn't long before she and her roommate noticed that Annabelle was moving around the apartment on its own. They also found random notes scrawled on parchment that read, "Help us." At first, they thought it was all just a prank, but when events worsened, they decided to call in a medium. During the seance, they were able to contact a spirit named Annabelle, who had passed when she was 7 years old. Ed and Lorraine heard of this and warned the women that a demonic presence was manipulating the doll in a bid to find a human host. After the Warrens witnessed Annabelle levitating, they removed the doll permanently from the apartment and placed her in the sealed glass case in their museum. In 2020, social media abounded with rumors that Annabelle had escaped the museum, but this was later determined to be a hoax, the fault of a poorly translated story into Chinese. Number 8, the Snedeker House. In 1986, the Snedeker family moved from New York to Connecticut so that they would be closer to the hospital that was treating their eldest son for cancer. Unfortunately, the family home on Meriden Avenue in Southington that they purchased was a former funeral home, although they had to make this chilling discovery on their own. After renovations on the house were complete, Carmen Snedeker entered the basement for the first time. There, she found embalming equipment and body tags with the names of the deceased. The family soon realized that the house was infested with demons. Carmen witnessed the water in her mop bucket turning to a different color. She recalled the mop water was blood red. I mean a deep, deep red. It made my skin crawl. The middle son said the lights were coming on and off and on and off, and even though there were no bulbs in it. Ed and Lorraine Warren assisted in performing an exorcism on the house, which has brought closure to the family. Since then, no further paranormal activity has occurred. The Snedeker family remained in the house for 2 more years before they relocated to Tennessee. It is still a private residence, but people have been known to stop by and look at the property from a distance. Number 7, the Enfield Poltergeist. The Enfield Poltergeist terrorized a small London house in the Enfield suburb. Between 1977 and 1979, single parent Peggy Hodgson and her 2 daughters, Margaret and Janet, experienced furniture being thrown around, small objects flying around rooms, and picture frames falling from the walls. The children would find themselves levitating out of their beds. These paranormal events were witnessed by their neighbors, journalists, and even police officers. The younger daughter, Janet, had also begun speaking in a deep masculine voice, which was believed to be the spirit of an old man. The family had received a lot of negative attention in the press as the young girls were accused of attention-seeking behavior. When Ed and Lorraine Warren investigated, they found it was a case of demonic possession. Janet later admitted that she had played with a Ouija board before the disturbances had begun, and that she was unaware that she fell into the trances until she was later shown the photographs. The family continued to live in the house even as people attempted to debunk the story as only a money-making plot. Mary Hodgson passed away in 2003, and her daughter Janet still believes the possession actually occurred. Number 6, the Donovan Family. In the early 1970s, Ed and Lorraine Warren met with the terrified Donovan family at their house. On arrival, the Warrens witnessed loud pounding coming from inside the walls, peeling paper, water running blood red, and beast-like noises echoing through the home. The Warrens questioned the Donovan family. Had they purchased any unusual secondhand items or had a family member passed away recently? Nothing was discovered until the youngest daughter, Patty, made her confession. She had used a Ouija board to communicate with a teenage boy who had passed away in the neighborhood 10 years earlier. The spirit never revealed his name to Patty, and the Warrens knew this was more than likely a demonic entity disguised as the boy. The Warrens immediately called for a priest. Following an exorcism, life inside the Donovan home slowly returned to normal. Ted Donovan's brother, who was a witness to the possession and the exorcism, wrote in a report, "I, nor anyone else in my family, have ever before witnessed anything so weird and terrifying." Number 5. The Smurl Family. In 1974, the Smurl family went through their own personal hell after moving to West Pittston, Pennsylvania. Janet and Jack Smurl, their young daughters, and Jack's parents all lived in the house together and suffered the worst 13 years of their lives. The paranormal activity began when their home renovations were found to be destroyed. New wallpaper peeled from the walls, freshly painted windows cracked, strange odors filled every room, and disturbing voices were heard throughout the house. Janet even revealed that she was abused one night in her sleep by a malevolent force. The Smurls were terrified and decided to contact Ed and Lorraine Warren for help. Lorraine discovered that the Smurl family home was infested with 4 spirits: a harmless elderly woman, an old man who had passed at the home, a young and violent girl, and a demon that controlled the other spirits and had turned them against the family. The incident stopped by October 1986, and the family moved back to Wilkes Barre in 1988. Reportedly, a church-sanctioned exorcism took place there, and the property has been cleared of all activity ever since. Number 4. Demon Possession Trial. Arn Cheyenne Johnson stabbed Alan Bono more than 20 times with a pocket knife on February 16, 1981. The small community of Brookline, Connecticut was shocked at this slaughter, the first in its 193-year history. But that was nothing compared to the shock of Johnson's intended defense: guilty by reason of demonic possession. Johnson moved into the home of his girlfriend, Debbie Glatzel, in May 1980, a month before her brother David began to claim he was being tormented by a demon. Glatzel's family sought help from the Catholic Church and famed demonologists Ed and Lorraine Warren, who performed 4 minor rites of exorcism to expel the 42 demons allegedly contained in David's body. During one such rite, Arn Cheyenne Johnson challenged the demons to enter him instead. Not long afterward, Johnson, who had no prior criminal record, stabbed Bono. Martin Manella, Johnson's defense attorney, cited 2 British court cases that had permitted a defense based on possession by demons, but Judge Robert Callahan refused the tactic, stating such assertions could not be scientifically or objectively proven by evidence. Manella argued self-defense instead. The jury found Johnson guilty of first-degree manslaughter on November 24, 1981. He received a sentence of 10 to 20 years, of which he served 5 for good behavior. Once Manella's innovative defense was barred, media attention evaporated from the trial. But in 2006, the Warrens' book on the case was reissued, and another Glatzel brother sued for damages, calling the occult claims a phony story to get rich and famous at our expense. Number 3. Union Cemetery. One of Connecticut's best-known ghosts haunts the Union Cemetery in Easton. The cemetery sits beside the centuries-old Easton Baptist Church near the intersection of Routes 59 and 136. The locals call the ghost the White Lady, and she has been seen by dozens of witnesses since the mid-20th century. The legend of the White Lady contains several explanations about who she was and how she came to haunt the cemetery and nearby Route 59. One account says she was buried in the cemetery after she passed during childbirth, and her confused spirit is desperately looking for her child. 2 other versions say she was the victim of foul play. She was either slaughtered near the turn of the 20th century and her body was thrown down a sinkhole behind the church, or her husband ended her sometime in the 1940s. Though her ghost has been seen moving around the cemetery late at night, most encounters take place on Route 59. The White Lady has a habit of appearing directly in front of people's cars as they drive by the Union Cemetery, causing them to brake hard and swerve to avoid impact. Any driver who has stopped to make sure the woman is alright finds no one around. A local fireman driving by the cemetery one night thought he struck a dark-haired woman in a white dress who had walked right out into the road. Not only did this man feel the impact, he also discovered a dent on the hood of his vehicle. A search of the area turned up nothing. Number 2. The London Werewolf. Bill Ramsey was considered living proof that werewolves actually do exist. Born in Southend-on-Sea, England, Ramsey recalled an event in childhood in which he felt strange before a powerful rage came over him, and he was able to uproot an entire fence. As an adult, he would witness his face transforming into a wolf and his hands twisting into claws. Ed and Lorraine Warren became involved when London police officers reported being attacked by a werewolf. Ed said, "This was the first case of lycanthropy that we had ever come across. I interviewed the police officers that this man actually attacked. Now he stands at about 170 centimeters or 5'7" and weighs about 68 kilograms or 150 pounds. But he would take some of these police officers who were well over 183 centimeters or 6 foot and he would throw them around like they were kindling wood." In 1989, the Warrens convinced Ramsey to come to their church in Connecticut and undergo an exorcism. During the event, Ramsey's face contorted and he launched at the exorcist. Then all was calm and the exorcism was a success. Since then, there has been no more incidents recorded. Number 1. Amityville Horror. On November 13th, 1974 at 3:15 in the morning, Ronald Butch DeFeo Jr. shot his parents and siblings with a .35 caliber rifle while they slept peacefully in their beds. Butch later told the police, "Once I started, I just couldn't stop. It went so fast." The following year, the Lutz family moved into the house on Ocean Drive in Amityville. A priest was called to bless the house, and he warned the family, "Do not use the upstairs room as a bedroom, and do not let anyone sleep in there." Within days, they knew something was wrong. Their young daughter made an imaginary friend with a red-eyed pig. Foul odors filled each room, furniture levitated, and banging occurred throughout the night. Finally, they fled from the house. When Ed and Lorraine Warren investigated, they discovered that the land had been used previously by a practicing black magician. He had requested to be buried on the land and remains there to this day. Kathy Lutz said, "Things of this nature happen quite frequently, and when they happen to families, they usually close the door and they don't talk about it. And unless these things are talked about, they'll never be understood." Thanks for watching.